I love Unacceptable Fringe. He's the best. No one does YouTube better than Unacceptable Fringe.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Fringe. We've talked about tariffs. We've talked about 51st state. We've talked about the election and the leadership race that's coming up in Canada. Ultimately, all of those are pointing to one thing, and it's one thing that people aren't seeing, at least for the majority. And I want to touch on that today because it's starting to add up when you piece it all together as to why Justin Trudeau and Team Canada are pushing for so much divisiveness. It also pushes to why Donald Trump would want to annex Canada and why Donald Trump wants the 51st state, and also what that means for Canada moving forward. I'm going to get into all that. Before we do, ladies and gentlemen, I do have to touch base on one thing because people have asked for it. While I have always said, it doesn't matter if people are booing at arenas, it doesn't matter if Justin Trudeau is pushing divisiveness or what Trump offers. I've always said I'm Canadian first. I do not want to give up my country, but also can understand Donald Trump's offers. I can understand the benefits to those offers. A lot of people were sitting in our live stream last Friday asking for 51st state merchandise. So I just want to let everybody know we now have Make Canada the 51st State hats, as well as a State of Canada 51st State shirts, hoodies, merchandise, all that in our shop. If you click the shop button down below, it supports the channel. You can get yourself something nice. And just to let you know, this is all on sale for the next 48 hours. So if you want to get it cheaper, now's the time. I know, shameless plugs, right? Get them out of the way. I want to talk today about why all of this is happening, because a lot of people are getting pulled in other directions. People are saying, Derek, you're the king of divisiveness. You're here to spark divisiveness because you're pushing for a 51st state. No, I want an end to everything that's happening in our country right now. I just want to go back to the way it used to be. When I would work, I'd pay my taxes, I'd get very minimal for them, but I still had money left over at the end of the day to live my life, pay my bills, and tuck a little bit away for the future. That's all I want. Now, when you ask yourself, why is the Canadian government not doing anything about these tariffs? Why are they not appointing a czar to go down to the United States and discuss the drug problem in this country? Why do they keep preaching Team Canada and promoting hatred in the streets with protests and booing in sporting events? Why is nothing being touched on? Well, there's a reason. When you look at what's happening in the United States with big balls, I know everybody's heard about big balls now, and Doge essentially going through the books to find out the wasted money and corruption within the Democratic Party. The same thing's happening in Canada. In fact, our leaders are scared because now Canadians are starting to wake up. It's the Trump effect. It's starting to happen all over the world. I'm going to touch on that later in the video. But in Canada, they're starting to get a little nervous. Multiple postings came out over the weekend showing money being funneled to the World Economic Forum to the tunes of almost $20 million over the last decade. We already know about SDTC. We already know about government contracts being handed out. We scandal, all of it. All of it. This is all done to benefit their buddies, line their own pockets. But they don't want anything. They don't want any free speech. When you think about Bill, holy dyslexia, Bill C-69 coming out to try and cripple people's free speech. Look at smiling Maserati Marxist here. Talking about why he now wants to ban X in Canada. Because Canadians shouldn't have the right to get their information. They shouldn't have the right to free speech. Says this is insane. Jagmeet is now actively trying to ban X in Canada. Their biggest fear, Canadians speaking freely. First they froze bank accounts, now they want to silence the internet. Now, while I can't show this video, because this is what these politicians are doing these days when they want to funnel free speech. They've done things like put audio tracks in their videos and things like that so that people can't share them on social media on these videos because it pulls the videos off. You can get a copyright strike. But essentially what he says in this video, and there are subtitles, so we'll show the video as we'll go through it, as he says, Elon Musk is at it again. He's been sending hundreds of millions of dollars to right-wing conservative candidates across the world. He's also been accused of manipulating the algorithm on X to favor right-wing conservative candidates. He's recently endorsed Pierre Poilievre, who's accepted that endorsement, so we're worried about the real threat of election interference in our country. Sign our petition to push for an investigation of Elon Musk and X and its interference in our democracy. So essentially what Goofmeat is saying here is, let's find a way to ban X. They, instead of Orange Man bad, it's now, well, he's given an endorsement to Pierre Poilievre. He's funding all these terrible people. Why don't we talk about who funds Jagmeet Singh? Why don't we talk about who funds Justin Trudeau? Who funds Mark Carney? Where their money goes to? I mean, they're scared. They're running scared. This is the last attempt, the last ditch effort of the woke to try and secure their hands on anything. Take a look at Mark Carney when he was back in the Bank of England. And blaming the globalist financial crisis on white people. Isn't this always the go-to with DEI?
Diversity is important at the Bank of England. It helps us make better decisions. I know this from economic research. We also know it, I think we all know it from personal experience. We saw the opposite in the run-up to the financial crisis, where there was a monoculture in the private sector and to some extent in regulators, people from very similar backgrounds and academic disciplines thinking the same thing and being precisely and collectively wrong in the run-up.
So white people are the problem. Keep in mind, what Mark Carney did for the Bank of England, according to Liz Truss, was completely bankrupted. So, of course, Mark Carney knows everything. Here's the problem with Mark Carney. Donald Trump has recently announced that despite the tariffs that we've already talked about, on oil and gas, on products, he is introducing a tariff on aluminum and steel. We're going to talk about good old Dougie Ford in a minute, but I want to show, while we're on Mark Carney, why, again, they're using the Team Canada narrative, Trump's 51st state narrative. It's all in there to manipulate. It's all in there to put the earwigs in and indoctrinate. The real reason we'll get to towards the end of the video. But let's take a look here. Trump is going to tariff our steel and Carney is going to put up a carbon tax on it. Like, that's the funny thing, is that it doesn't matter which way it goes. It's just whose pocket the money's going into.
Then secondly, what we're going to do is make sure not that the government pays, not that we as taxpayers pay, but the large polluters pay. And so what happens...
But does that not ultimately trickle down?
No, because what the big companies are producing, by and large, are not products that we are consuming. There's some element of that, but by and large, you know, a steel company, how much steel are you using these days, Todd? I mean, not as much we used. So anyway, so that's...
Oh, Todd, how much steel are you using? I mean, we don't use steel, right, guys? We don't build anything anymore because it's Canada. We're just stuck in our homes. We're not allowed to do anything anyways. Oh, it doesn't trickle down at all. They don't pass that on to the consumer. This is the bogus nut job Mark Carney thinking that he knows anything about finances or politics. This guy's a clown. He's an absolute clown. It's just about lining their pockets. When we look at Doug Ford, again, this is all feeding into why this is happening. I know it's a lot of stuff to digest, but trust me, folks, stay with me here. It's all lining up somewhere. Doug Ford is saying he's going to Washington to send a very clear message. After hearing about aluminum and steel tariffs and how Trump wants to annex Canada, Doug Ford is sounding more like Jagmeet Singh with his baseless threats. Pulling liquor off the shelves, doing all these things. This is all part of Doug Ford trying to cling to another 4 years. Just like Mark Carney's trying to take leadership of the Liberals. Just like Jagmeet Singh wants a new job within Mark Carney's Liberals. He wants to prop them up. It's all to cling to power. Doug Ford wants an election, and he wants to run on Trump. He wants these tariffs. He wants the trade war because it's an easy arguing point to win over the woke in Ontario. And those are the ones who typically influence the elections, by the way. I know people don't like hearing that. But when you look at the per capita basis, when you look at where those votes come in the province, it's typically the woke voters that end up with installed mayors like Olivia Chow, where you get guys that are closet liberals like Doug Ford. He wants to put the finger against Trump because it's an easy win for him. Let's take a listen to what he has to say.
Well, folks, last night we got some news. President Trump said he'll impose 25% tariffs on aluminum and steel today.
And I'm not going to lower your taxes or lower your cost of living or make up for some way in it by the provincial standards. No, I'm just going to, hey, poor bad Donald Trump, bad Donald.
The target of his latest threat is unclear. We're still learning more about their scope and impact, but what we know for certain, this is the next 4 years. I've been saying it. We're going to face this for 4 years. Shifting goalposts constantly and constant chaos, all designed to hurt our economy and undermine our workers.
Doesn't that sound like something that happened in Canada? Shifting goalposts, undermining our workers and the economy. Oh, right. You mean like when you locked us in our homes for 2.5 years and moved goalposts with your sticker and label company, Doug Ford, while you profited off of the pandemic. This is the problem. They say that we still don't know everything, ladies. We're still doing our research into how this is going to affect us. No, you're writing your next script to finger point at Donald Trump. He says right blatantly, this is the next 4 years. What's he running for right now? Another 4-year mandate. So if you want to go up against Orange Man Bad, vote for Doug Ford because he's going to save the day, isn't he? What's happening there is that this is all a distraction. Again, when we look at Trudeau's summits, while he flees the country, while government's prorogued, while we have no functioning government, while all this talk about Team Canada is going on, while Quebec says we're not going to build pipelines, Doug Ford says we're not going to appoint a czar, we're not going to do anything, I'm going to talk about bad Donald Trump, while Mark Carney says, hey, they just want to tariff everything, we just want to carbon tax it. Trump's doing deals. He gives Japan the LNG deal that Trudeau denied in 2023. This is about money. The whole thing is about the deal. That's where I keep saying, folks, to stay with me here. There's a reason on both sides for this. W. Brett Wilson, another Justin Trudeau F-up. One of many. Liberal Party must call an election for the sake of our Canada. Our government doesn't want these deals because it doesn't benefit their pockets, but it sure benefits America. It benefits Donald Trump. Japan wanted to invest in and secure more LNG exports 2 years ago, but Trudeau said no. Now Japan is getting a deal from Donald Trump. And that's the whole basis of this entire thing, ladies and gentlemen. It's about a deal. Donald Trump wants a deal. I'm going to play what he said over the weekend. I know everybody's heard of this already. Everybody's already seen this, but there's a reason I want to play this because it's going to really highlight what benefits each side of the board here and where we need to stand as Canadians, I guess, or decide where we stand.
How does this align with America First?
Because it makes us bigger, stronger, and better. Canada, we'll see what happens with Canada, but the people of Canada would be paying less than half of the tax. If you look at the tax, they're going to be paying less than half the tax. They don't pay very much for military, and the reason they don't pay much is they assume that we're going to protect them. That's not an assumption they can make, because why are we protecting another country? Now, I love the people of Canada. We have a great relationship. But if they became our 51st state, it would be the greatest thing they could ever do. It would be unbelievable. It would be a cherished state. And think of how beautiful that country would be without that artificial line running right through it.
So right there, he's dead serious about this. We all know about Trudeau's set-up hot mic moment. Let's talk about how serious it was. The reason being is he says, what about without that artificial line? It would be a tremendous country, he says, very valued. Value is the key word there. The reason Donald Trump is pushing for the globalization of the destruction of the Canadian border, the 51st state ploy, is because he's looking to do what Pierre Poilievre essentially said he wants to do with Canada. If Donald Trump were to absorb Canada as the 51st state, that takes down all provincial barriers. It lowers the tax brackets. It makes things better for a trading economy. It brings in the oil, gas, and valuable uranium deposits, minerals, everything we have within this country, our agriculture, our farming, our industrial businesses, everything that Canada has that could make it an economic powerhouse goes to the United States at that point. That's what everybody has to realize here. Donald Trump is all about the deal, and that is a hell of a deal. That if you were to buy and annex Canada, suddenly your market opens significantly. He keeps talking about the 200 to 250 billion that we subsidize to Canada. and that we buy their cars, we do all these things. But what if you did what Pierre Poilievre is talking about? Well, suddenly you have a potential 200 billion plus surplus tacked on instead of subsidizing. So you're actually coming ahead over $500 billion by backing Canada, by getting that 51st state. He's looking at dollar for dollar. It's like Donald used to say in The Art of the Deal during the opening of The Apprentice when he had that show on TV, it's nothing personal, it's just business. And that's what we're seeing in Canada too, is the indoctrination of politicians that are clinging to power because they want this fear-mongering of this woke structure to say, hey, if they do this, guys, it's time to start getting patriotic. It's time to start saying Team Canada. It's time to start booing the American anthem. It's time to start waving our flag again. By the way, the flag that they condemned during the Freedom Convoy, all while they profited off of keeping us in our homes. We've taken advantage of Canadians for over a decade. We've spent like morons. We've racked up the deficit. But it's time to wave your flag, ladies and gentlemen, and back us, even though we're corrupt, because you just don't want to become American, do you? Both sides stand to win at the end of the day, and it's all about money, ladies and gentlemen. It has nothing to do with our sovereignty. It has nothing to do with what's best for us. It has to do with two sides of a coin looking at what they have to gain from it. The thing we have to remember is that this is serious. And it's no longer a joke. I will admit there were videos that came out that when they first launched, I said it could be a joke if Trump were, he's just trolling, calling Justin Trudeau the governor. But over time, it's been pointed very seriously that this is why Trump is thinking about it. And when you start thinking about the money again, it makes sense. The problem is that the Trump effect hits all over the world. This man is in control of global markets. He affects them. That's why it's dubbed the Trump effect. When you look at Gaza, when you look at talks in the Ukraine and with Putin, you look at all these things going on. Look at what's happening in America today. I'm going to have a story coming out tomorrow about this because this video is already going way too long. But over in London, what is happening across the West, accumulating in America, rejecting communism and cultural and climate alarmism by voting in Donald Trump is spreading like fire throughout the Anglosphere. Woke is in final retreat. Keep kicking it until it's completely gone. Of course, they're talking about the farmers that have all of a sudden shown up in the UK that are saying enough of this woke nonsense, enough of the environmental alarmism, enough of the doom and gloom. We want to get down to business. This comment says it all. London today is proof change is spreading across the West. America's rejection of communism, cultural radicalism, and the climate alarmism by electing Donald Trump has ignited a movement. This fire is spreading across the Anglosphere. People are waking up, pushing back, and demanding common sense over ideology. Woke is in full retreat. It's not over yet. Keep pushing it until it's gone for good. This is what scares me when we talk about the annexation of Canada. Again, as I stated when we highlighted our brand clothes coming out, that our new clothing line of our brand, is that I am not pro 51st state. I am pro Canadian till the day I die. However, I know there's a lot of people pro 51st that go, Derek, what are you doing? I thought you were all for this. What I've also said is that when you look at the abuse of our government, when you look at the overtaxation on goods, when you look at the government using Canadians as a battery farm, when you look at the over globalization of fear-mongering of the environment, all to line pockets of those who benefit. When you look at the Paris Accords, when you look at the patriotism of the United States, where people have flags on their doorsteps, they're proud of their country. It's not to say Canadians aren't proud of their country. I know there's cons to joining the United States. I know about amendments. I know about what happens in schools and things like that. So I'm not going to disregard those things. But what I'm starting to say is that after all of the abuse Canadians have been through, while we look at both sides of this spectrum, Donald Trump looking at the financial end, the woke in Canada looking to cling to power, you start to get to a point where you start saying, what else is there though? I love my country, but if a good deal is made and one that is available to benefit us, to make for a better future, not just for myself, but future generations of my family, my children, my grandchildren, why would I not be an idiot to at least consider the options that are being put on the table. So that is the question that I ask to you, the viewer, at the end of this video. Do you believe Canada would benefit from a deal offered by Donald Trump? Do you think it would eradicate our globalist, environmental, trigger-happy government? Or do you think that it would just result in a couple of years of Donald Trump and then more years of a corrupt Democratic government? Let me know what you guys think down below. Again, I will make it very clear. I'm 50-50 on this scale. I love my country, but I do see the benefits. Let me know your thoughts down below. If it's your first time here, I hope this video has earned your subscription. We're growing at an alarming rate, folks, averaging about 1,000 new subscribers a week. It's all that matters to me. Subscribe. Just kidding. Hit that subscribe button. Click your bell for notifications. Join me live here on the channel tonight for a special live stream, as well as every Friday night for Friday Night Fringe, our main feature live streaming show every week, where I sit down with my beautiful wife, Mrs. Fringe. We go over everything that's happened in politics, everything that we know that's coming up ahead in politics, and some back and forth within our community, as well as giving you guys some Q&A and some control over that stream. We always look forward to chatting with you guys in those live streams and hearing what you have to say outside of making these videos. And I look forward to chatting with you tonight, as well as this Friday and every Friday, starting at 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central, here on the channel. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this video and have a great rest of your day. I'll catch you on the next one.